emphasizing on the collaboration between industry and the technical and education institute. We are the demand side and the supply side. There is no match, and over time we haven't seen much improvement. We can take experience from different countries of the world. And another issue is NEET. 49% of young females, they are not in employment, education and training. So there is a gender issue as well. So these are the two issues, I think, the two major issues.
Thank you. So we have come up with at least two positive policies. One was suggested by Dr. Kishore, that apprentice-based system in the industries, and the another is by Dr. Vidisha, that industry and educational institutions should constantly interact with each other. Now, this will be the last two questions I will take. So there are how many persons who want to ask? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I will first give her, because she was the first to raise the hand. You please, in the first row, in the first row.
Thank you. I'm Ranuma. I'm from ILO Dhaka.
Yes.
My question is regarding to the policymaker. The thing that we actually, I can say that I learned from the previous day that the tension or the puzzle of that the real wage is not increasing, rather it's decreasing. Maybe we have beautiful data about the nominal wages are increasing, lots of funds and lots of acts being adopted. But are these really helping for rising the real wage? If not, then what Ministry of Labour is planning to do that? Because ILO is advocating for having an employment policy for so long. The employment policy is the thing that we will talk about, the demand and supply and the mismatches and other things. And the issues of real wage. We all know the issues of the wage fixations of the RMT sectors, where we can see the government, the employers, and the workers are there in a tripartite situation, and how the wage fixation been done. It's never been for the workers' part, a favor. So how Ministry of Labour is thinking, it is not only the real wage or wage of the ready-made garments, what about the real wages of the other sectors? So is there any plan for the Ministry of Labour to really address the real wage issues? Thank you.
I think I can take two more questions first, then the panelist will give answer and we will close the session. So, Hira, or you. You can.
Hello, sir. My name is Rubaya.
Rubaya.
Okay. So my question is for Dr. Kishore. So you were talking about the national skill development policy and how you're helping the government, develop skills institutions. So there are three different broad education schooling streams in Bangladesh: the madrasa, Bengali medium, English medium. So when you were trying to, build a skill development policy, or when you're thinking about incorporating skills training programs in workforces, how do you think about the heterogeneity across these streams of education? Because in my experience, in my studies, I've seen that there's a lot of heterogeneity in the syllabus, in the curriculum, and the educational attainment of the students from each of these streams. So, for example, if a student from a madrasa and a student from a Bengali medium, another one from an English medium, goes into these training programs, how do you build a skill development program which, gives them equal access and they can come out of it with equal gains? Because there's a lot of heterogeneity in the education system, and do you consider that when you're building the policies, and how big of a problem is that, or how do you deal with that?
I think it's a very good question, and
We'll take another question. Okay, another question.
Thank you, sir. I'm Takrima. I'm assistant professor in the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management. Actually, you can take another question because I don't have any question. Rather, I would share a concern with you. Because Bidisha ma'am and other panelists, they're talking about the alternative opportunities rather than manufacturing sector, where we can improve our female participation rate, and about the skill mismatch. As I'm working in the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, we have like 70% of our female students, and most of the year we have the top student as a female student. But when I'm working with them, I have kind of feeling, and to my surprise, that they are not willing to join the industry. They don't want to join the tourism industry. And at the same time, they have the proper skill, training, exposure, everything, but they don't want to join the industry. So there is a demand side and readily supply side, but there is no match. There is no equilibrium between them. The male student of our department, they are very much willing to join them, but female, they try to remain unemployed rather than going to the tourism industry. So there is a social stigma, there is a family pressure. You should wait and go for BCS, not to join the industry. So there is a real mismatch in here. So I guess you can give some insights so how to bridge the gap between these two. Thank you.
So the last question, Abdullah.
So, sir, I think I don't need to introduce myself because I was the most familiar face in the last 2 days. Just to bring the issue that we have been discussing this issue, I think, for the last quite a few years. Bangladesh has been tremendous in achieving the growth, but at the same time, we have failed to, create the jobs. So there has always been a demand and supply side mismatch, and we just teach it in the first year economics that when there is a demand and supply side mismatch, there is a disequilibrium. We will reach to the equilibrium, and here comes the two different types of school of economics. In classical economics, they say that yes, wait, the market will solve the problem, and the new classical people like us, and I would like to see myself in the new classical field, we want that, we don't want to wait for the long run, we would like to intervene and get back myself into the equilibrium. So I'm really wondering, where should be the intervention? Who should do the intervention? We have mismatch in demand and supply. Is it the government who should do the intervention? And if it's the government, where should be the intervention? Is it the institution like us, the educational institutions? If we are the people who should take the intervention, then let us know where should we do that intervention. I hope if we can find that things as quick as possible, we can solve that problem. And I would like to solve this problem as soon as possible because I don't want to say that the job problem has been solved and I am in heaven. I want to say that job problem has been solved when I was alive and my students got the job, because those 45% of the students that Akash sir was saying, they were produced by us. So I want to have my students job security, and I would like to say that we should, with the policymakers, they should come up with the intervention and find out the proper intervention how to create those jobs. It might be the private investment, it might be the public investment, but do it as quick as possible and take it seriously. Thank you.
So Abdullah has a desire, huh? And let us hope that desire can produce response. But actually we know desire cannot do that. That needs effective demand. Okay, how it will come, that is another issue, and that will have to be discussed. So I leave it to the panelists to answer all the questions.
I wanted to respond to something very relevant to our work.
So, it's a very good question because that has been one of the dilemmas in many parts of the world. What we have done that recently, we have launched a new project called Skills 21, and that project has one focus on national qualification framework, which brings all three streams and try to harmonize and seek equivalence among those qualifications. So in the first phase of our project, it was a technical qualification framework which we had introduced, following the National Skills Development Policy. But now, the National Skills Development Policy itself is being revised, and to include this part, and parallelly, we are trying to set up this NQF, and the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister also announced it, as a BQF, Bangladesh Qualification Framework, so to bring all three streams together. So that's the answer of the question, which we'll have to wait for some time to see that how does it work, because this framework will take 2 years, UGC, madrasa education and technical education, all three of them have been working together.
Yes.
general point which is an answer to many of the questions. This relates to attitude and awareness. As has been pointed out in a comment, that women who have good skills and are suitable for employment, they are not taking up that job. It really implies that young people, they have specific aspirations, which may be biased and which may be such that it does not lead them to, which does not make them suitable for employment. For example, there is a disproportionate bias towards BCS. People want to get into government jobs, and that is the only thing they want. It is something like সোনার হরিণ চাই, সোনার হরিণ না পেলে আর কিছু আমরা চাই না. But that attitude, that type of aspiration goes against the market. And so ultimately, even the quality of education relates to this. You are teaching your students, they must be aspired to take up jobs which suits their skills. Not only I want to be a policymaker, I want to be at the top. There should be realistic expectations. There should be awareness among parents and guardians, among the society in general, that all jobs are respectable, all earnings are respectable, not only specific jobs. I would like to emphasize this because it leads to many problems. Thank you for giving me a response.
So, since we have been working in tourism sector, so I'll be happy to offer explanation. That what's our experience in tourism sector, that why women don't want to go. As I said, that industries are not accepting. And that's one factor. The other factor is that the social pressure and the family pressure, both are at work. They are not able to, motivate those skilled women because they are not prepared. These industries are not prepared. They don't have those policy, gender policy. You go to any of these big industries and show me where the gender policy is there. So there's a lack of this awareness among the industries also how to attract skilled women workers. So that's one response. To Mr. Abdullah's, there's a very interesting question, and is ILO has taken a position of Keynesian theory where a state has to intervene. Without a state intervention, neoliberalism hasn't worked. Globally, the meltdown starts with this when the neoliberalism went to the peak. So I think the state has a very, very important role to play.
So we can now end this session with a few comments from my side. You? Anybody? Oh, hard question. Do you want to respond?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you. Our country was agriculture-based economy, but now we are going to industry-based economy. So we need more skilled labor, more skilled employee. So for this, our National Skill Development Council was, but now National Skill Development Authority for skilled labor. And your question is the minimal wages. With the cooperation of ILO and other international organizations, our 43 sector minimum wages, we declare minimum wages time to time, and other sector we are most probably within very short time another 11 sector will declare minimum wages. So 43 plus 11. So time to time minimum wages adjust with the country's economic I am want to meaning it the time to time we adjust the wages on that time to adjust the wages for the daily salary or monthly salary. So the wages, minimum wages declared time to time. So we with the cooperation of ILO and other organization, it is very much adjusted, and in the sector RMG, SRIM and other sector, it is going on within very short time. We adjusted in the 11 sector, we adjusted the minimum wages. So minimum wages with the board, the government have minimum wages board to this for this purpose.
Thank you everybody for a wonderful session, very lively. And I think in the previous sessions we couldn't give opportunity to the present audience to present their views and ask questions. But in this session we were able to do it, although we have exceeded our time limit by 15 minutes. So I will take only 2 minutes more. The first thing I want to say that some policy solutions have come out of this session. That is our important product for the society. Number one is, I am not selecting all the solutions, but the main solutions which I think important. Number one is, we must have a mapping of the supply and demand of labor in the labor market. All sector-based, in informal sector, in the formal sector, so that an informed employment policy can be made. We can identify where is the excess supply, where is the shortage of worker, and where the wage is too low, where the wage is too high. So all those information should be preserved by the government first. That was suggested by our ILO person. And the second point is, the ominous sign which we are facing is employment elasticity of growth is coming down. What to do with it? The suggestion, I think, which was most important is we must follow a labor-intensive technology preference. That means giving preference to SME and other sectors. But in agriculture, I think we can't go for further labor intensity. In agriculture, the machine will have to replace harvesting work and other things, so that the agriculturists can reduce the cost of production of paddy and get a proper price, and also ensure proper price for the consumers. So agriculture, the labor-intensive technology will not be correct, I think. But for industry and service sector, we must go for as much as possible labor-intensive technology. The third point which came out is we have to go for a more or less homogeneous education system. That point was made very beautifully and very excellently by Rehman Solan. He said that the school in Gaibandha and the school in Dhaka must have the same quality. Otherwise, the product from Gaibandha will remain unemployed, and product from Vikrantasa will get the employment easily. So how to do that minimum homogeneous system of education, and the point was made that there are 3 streams in our education system, and also it was made that the content, the syllabus of the education should be changed by catering to the needs of industry, needs of the employers. So another necessary condition is a regular interaction of information, flow of information between the employer and the educational institutions. Perhaps our university should have a separate office which mediates between industry and various departments of the university. Third point which was made, that for women, recently the apprehension was made that recently the women absorption rate in the labor force has come down. So how to keep it sustained and how to improve it further. And it was suggested that special kinds of jobs are preferred by the women, so those jobs will have to be created at a larger rate. And also it was pointed out that women should be encouraged to change their values. They should be ready to go for jobs at the cost of care and other services which has been traditionally imposed upon them. But I think for that we men are also responsible, and we will have to bear a certain part of those jobs so that they can do so. The fourth point was about labor law and wage, real minimum wage. I think two suggestions can be given here that was not discussed here, but I am suggesting. One is we can try to introduce indexed wages so that once the wage is fixed, every year there is a inflation. So inflation adjusted wages can be done so that at least real wage does not fall. At least that can be done. And secondly, a permanent wage commission. Now, after our labor secretary has said that they have that adjustment, but that adjustment is at irregular intervals. When the workers come into the street, then the government becomes conscious and set up a wage commission, and then it starts working. So why so? Let us be more human to the labor force, especially because, and the other part that which I mentioned before, that the laborers are contributing more and getting less. And here what we should do. I think one point can be done, that the owners who employ them are not sharing the profit with them. So some kind of profit sharing system, or government can have progressive taxation system and take up some money from them and set up social security schemes for the workers. So with these, thank you all for a very wonderful session. Thanks.